Remember, you've got to replace old patterns of behavior with new patterns of behavior, and you're going to uncover these along the way. I know you've been on a road journey before and you found some great discoveries that were probably very memorable for you. The journey to recovery is the same way. You're going to reach intersections and you're going to decide, do I go left or do I go right? And if I go left and it's the wrong road, I need to backtrack, find a new way to my destination, and develop a new plan. Identify roadblocks along the way and navigate through them. We do this through what's called a reuse prevention plan. And there are many different types of reuse prevention plans. Some are quite lengthy and really detailed, and some are more brief. This is a very brief return to use prevention plan. It's designed for an individual to take with them and use as a pocket reminder of when things get stressful, what is your plan? What is your action plan to prevent returning to use? Because we've got to have something right in front of us that's readily available to the brain that says, I need to change this pattern of behavior. And how was I going to do that? I'm going to look at my plan. Oh yeah, I'm going to call so-and-so. So what is a reuse prevention plan? It helps you think ahead and plan what you can do when you find yourself in high-risk situations that could lead you to return of old patterns of behavior. This can be used for all kinds of behavior change, such as dieting, such as exercising, such as smoking or coffee drinking or whatever it is. You can do a return to behavior prevention plan. The goal of these action steps is to help you find an alternative solution so you may achieve your goals. Some things that may prompt my old return to behaviors, for me, it was going to Dunkin' Donuts at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? When I start to think about returning to that behavior, I will. I also mentioned that part of my pattern of behavior was to have a bottle of wine behind my coffee pot. And my reuse prevention plan would be to make sure that I put coffee in my coffee cup in the morning instead of wine, and not hide my bottle of wine behind the coffee pot. I know I am vulnerable when. For me, it would be when the cravings really started to overpower me, or when I became stressed, or when I found myself in social settings that I didn't know how to respond in. When I'm close to returning to old patterns of behavior, instead I will fill in the blank. Have the individual create their pattern of behavior. It's important that they determine what the replacement behavior will be and not what we tell them the behavior ought to be. Giving them locus of control over their own life reinforces their power and their control over their own lives, which we all want and need, by the way, instead of being told what to do. My support team includes, who am I going to call? Who can I reach out to? This is a quick reference. Like I said, there are many, many different types of reuse prevention plans. Feel free to Google them online. So the real journey is you identify the drug use goals, or you identify the problem. What is the problem? Well, the problem is alcohol. I don't understand why I do this. I don't understand that it's a problem. So I'm going to seek out information to better understand why it is such a problem and how it's impacting my life. Well, when I'm under the influence of alcohol, I get in the car and drive, right? That's a problem. I need to understand that my alcohol use is directly related to this problem that's causing safety issues for myself and others. After I understand, I can make a plan. I'm going to sit down with somebody, maybe I'm going to do it myself, and I'm going to make a plan of how to discontinue this pattern of behavior. Once I make the plan, I'm going to put it into action, and I may hit roadblocks. I may not be successful the first time that I try. I may have to reassess, redirect, map out a new plan, and go back over and start again. That's part of return to use, is refining these plans over and over so that they work for each individual separately. And then lastly, with continued revisions of my plans and education and understanding, I'm going to get into action stage with the support and encouragement of those who can support and encourage me in the right manner. Some warning signs for reoccurrence. This is complicated, and this is by no means the definitive list. There are many warning signs for reoccurrence or slip, but these are just some of them to be thinking about. And this is for a person who's had a little bit of time in abstinence or maintaining their drug use goals. Extreme stress and anxiety and poor impulse control. Extreme craving with no outlet to distract. Folks, if you haven't experienced what a craving is like, think about a craving that you've had, and were you able to successfully navigate through it with a redirection, or did you give in? And then think about a drug or alcohol craving and the brain saying it's survival, and it's magnified by 1,000 times. Staying in toxic relationships, social groups. Now, this does not necessarily mean that everyone in a toxic relationship is going to return to use or have a slip, but it's a warning sign. Thinking one can moderate their use again without being addicted. Again, some people can do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going to return to full-blown patterns of behavior, but it's a warning sign. Isolation or withdrawing, compulsive or high-risk behaviors, interior chaos, the noise, the incessant voices that keep going around in your head that you can't stop, the sort of horribilization or catastrophizing of what will happen in life if and when. And I think a lot of us do that, and managing that is not a skill necessarily specific just to folks with substance use disorder, but for many individuals. Repeated dishonesty, not keeping appointments or returning phone calls, and blaming are some warning signs, and changes in social relationships, breakups, familial relationships can all be warning signs. Disengaging with healthy support systems. Again, it doesn't mean somebody's going to return to use. It's an area of concern. All of these lie in the subconscious to protect the right to choose. Remember always that the brain is conditioned that the drug is survival, and the brain is very uncomfortable and does not feel safe or protected without the patterns of drug use. And so the brain is going to continuously be sending messages to return to use, so that it can feel comfortable again. Return to previous patterns of behavior is part of the journey for most. Everyone in recovery today experienced one last use. I had one last use. I had many returns to use and slips in between, but everybody had one last return to use. Successful recovery management requires navigating through withdrawal, stress, and replacing old patterns of behavior with new patterns of behavior. This cannot and will not happen in a 28-day treatment. For some, for rare few, it might, but for many, for the majority, it does not. Recovery is a process. There are many types of reuse prevention plans. Different ones will work at different times for different people. Most importantly is let the person decide what they are willing to work on, not what you think they should work on. Don't force information. Explore and find out where they're at. Remember, 28 days of treatment cannot repair years of use. It can initiate recovery, for sure. Treatment does not propel someone into sustainable recovery management. Suggesting someone go into treatment can trigger fear. This is what happened to me. I was threatened that I needed to go into treatment for 28 days. And I can tell you that I knew that my ex-spouse was going to try to have the court rule that I was not suitable and have my parental rights terminated. So the fear was so great, folks, that even if I could have gone into treatment, I wouldn't go into treatment because of this fear. I was in a position where even with 3 days of sobriety, you can't get into treatment. I didn't have insurance. We didn't have the Medicaid expansion like we have now. And so even though some people, you think that they might benefit from treatment, getting into treatment can be very, very difficult. And it's logistics, it's finances, it's bed availability, it's drug use. There are so many considerations. I want you to stop thinking that anybody can get into treatment, because it is very difficult to get into a treatment program. Financial fears, logistics, dogs, cats, pets, school, work, kids, caregiver, There's so many logistics that can go into someone actually taking 28 days out of their lives and going into a treatment program. Please think about that. Past trauma, maybe they've got some medical trauma, maybe they've had past experiences in treatment centers that involve trauma, and then return to use. For some folks, smoking is a big deal if they can't find a treatment center that doesn't allow smoking. That can be a really big barrier. Stop trying to scare people into going into treatment. Treatment is not the above all, end all key to sustainable recovery. Treatment can be a part of it, but there are many, many, many people in this world, I'm one of them, who never went to a treatment facility. And then there's many people that have gone to treatment facilities 10, 15, 30, 40 times before they achieve sustainable recovery. Let's have a paradigm shift, people. Recovery is available to anybody that wants it, and there are many pathways to recovery. How can you help in a positive way? As helpers, we do not problem solve or impose judgments, right? We don't scare people. We don't tell them what we think they should do. We seek to understand. Where are you at? Help me understand how I can help you. If you had a return to use, if someone you're working with had a slip, a reoccurrence, what was the root cause of the behavior that keep getting in the way of you achieving your drug use goals, so that we can address them and I can help you be more successful? How can I help you be more successful? Doesn't that sound better than if you don't do this? Would you help finding treatment or a recovery coach? Would you like help finding food or housing resources? Would you like help seeking job training? Do you want some additional education, or do you need a GED? Maybe you need help with taxes. Maybe you need language assistance. Maybe you need help writing or reading or computer skills. Do you want help finding a counselor? It's not easy to find a counselor these days either. Very challenging. And courts are imposing, get a counselor immediately. Do you want help managing the court system? What led you to your returning to use or your slip? Can you recall the steps? Let's take a look at those. Let's create a map around avoiding those circumstances in the future. Seemingly unimportant behavior that leads to empowerment. So I'm taking the same acronym, mnemonics, and I'm putting empowerment instead of error. Point out honesty and courage. Folks, it takes a lot of courage for somebody to show up and ask for help. It takes a lot of courage for somebody to show up and not use substances today for one day. It takes a lot of courage to walk into a mutual aid group such as AA or NA or HA. Recognize when someone is desperate or overwhelmed. Try not to ask what is wrong with you. Try not to think what is wrong with you, but wonder, I wonder what happened to this person that brought them to this moment and time of despair. Avoid statements like, I've never been more disappointed in you. I actually know a guardian ad litem, a CASA volunteer who used this for a person in recovery after a slip. Don't use these statements, folks. This is a judgment and it does not help anyone. You can't be responsible for the outcomes. You can only be responsible for what you say and the stories that you retell about addiction. Rising tides lift all boats. Be a force of nature. Be a rising tide. Empathize, encourage, empower, promote autonomy, promote hope. We all play a part to help individuals build the foundation of ruins from the ground up with empathy, understanding, and empowerment. We can stop sweeping people under the carpet today. Next up on Module 4 is defining recovery. We'll take a look at understanding what does recovery even mean. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much for being here through this module of understanding return to use. Remember, Feel free to reach out to myself or Pine Tree Institute with any questions or concerns you may have. See you in Module 4. Hey there, this is Ginger. I hope you're learning a lot from this series. I'm asking for your help in supporting my tireless efforts. There's a few ways in which you can support me. Tell your friends about this video series, subscribe and like each video here on YouTube down below, make a donation on my website, or invite me to deliver this training in person. Together, we can all be part of the solution. Hope to see you soon, and thank you.